Hey friends, I want to issue a public retraction and correction. In the recent debate over whether literal sin sacrifices will be renewed in the future, I concluded that the Torah-keeping position taught by David Wilber and Hegg and others amounts to a false gospel because it teaches that the sacrifice of Jesus was not enough to cover all sin. However, in a recent conversation, Andrew Schumacher made a great point that caused me to reconsider my position. He pointed out that these Torah-keeping teachers don't believe that anything is required beyond Christ's sacrifice to achieve salvation. In other words, they aren't teaching that salvation hangs on the renewed sin sacrifices in the future age, and therefore, their position on this issue is technically not a false gospel, because it's not an alternate way to be saved. And I think that's a better and more charitable way to look at it. And in hindsight, I was wrong and uncharitable in categorizing it that way. And I apologize to anyone who felt maligned. My goal is always to offer an accurate and fair defense of biblical Christianity, and I just overreached in my categorization of this issue. Please forgive me. Now, I maintain that the idea of literal future sin sacrifices is unbiblical and contradicts the New Testament. What these Torah keepers teach impugns the sufficiency of Christ's work on the cross because it requires future believers to perform rituals to deal with the rest of the sin that the sacrifice of Jesus didn't cover. And yet, the New Testament literally says there is no longer any offering for sin, and that Christ's sacrifice was once and for all, one time for all sin, never to be repeated, no more sin sacrifices required. So I still believe their position is unbiblical and they need to account for that. However, what they're teaching does not rise to the level of a false gospel. And that's an important distinction. So I've updated my academic paper in response to Hegg to remove that characterization. And to make my retraction as public as possible, I've also noted it in the descriptions and the comment sections of my 3 videos on this topic, as well as adding info cards at the front of each of those videos that link to this one. And because of these steps, after much prayer and thought, I've chosen not to take down those 3 videos because I still believe they are a biblical and necessary part of this conversation. And I stand by everything they teach and expose, with the sole exception of the false gospel classification. Thanks for listening. May Christ be magnified even in our disagreements. Shalom.